Lily gal, what make your presence so? Lily gal, what make your presence so? From out the 14 man into 15, I make a presence so. From out the 14 man into 15, I make a presence so. Lily gal, what make your presence so? Lily gal, what make your presence so? I make money down and a man hold me hand and I make a presence so. I make money down and a man hold me hand and I make a presence so. Stupid Gary, let's shame mommy, go marry, go one gold ring, stupid gold ring, stupid Lily gal, will make your presence so. Lily gal, will make your presence so. This make a present, I make a present, this make a present so. This make a present, I make a present, this make a present so. Lily gal, will make your presence so. Lily gal, will make your presence so. He make a present, she make a present, you make a present so. He make a present, she make a present, you make a present more. Lily gal, will make your present so. Lily gal, will make your present so.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Kellyan Mall, 162 Lamaha Street, in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins Firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins Firm.
All right. Hey, guess what? Good evening and welcome to Straight Up. It's a beautiful evening, right? As always, it is beautiful. Let's start right off the bat and give you an opportunity, of course, to share the link. But whilst you're sharing the link, call a friend and let them know that we're on. We appreciate that you share the link. But this is what we are starting off with. Quickly before we do, hope you've had an enjoyable day. We have 1 hour of solid program right here on 107.1 FM. Straight up. All right, look, here's what's happening. We have been looking for former Minister of Housing. She's now the Shadow Minister of Housing, Annette Ferguson. The last time she was on, she said she was heading to Linden. I don't know what has happened, but good evening to you, Honorable Member of Parliament. It looks as though whatever has prevented her from going to Linden, I know it's just a bus fare away. I know she has a vehicle, gas price expensive, not only in Guyana, but it's all over. But I can understand the squeeze people are feeling in Guyana. Okay, but then again, MPs do make $250,000 a month, right? So that should not be a problem for Annette. But even if it's a problem, guess what? Seems as though she's going to get a heck of a lot of money. But Jack Dale doesn't want to give out. He doesn't want to let go. People say all of the money in the world that he has, he hasn't worked hard for it at all. It's free money, easy money, billions of dollars. Look at what he owns. Anyways, we already know what these guys are about. It's not about good governance or anything. But Jack Dale feels as though that he can say whatever he wants to say, whenever he wants to say it, and to whomever he wants to direct that to. But Annette Ferguson wasn't having it. She took him to court. She won the judgment. She won it twice. The judge actually said, look, there's nothing to review. I'm sticking to my decision. Story done. But Jack Dale now doesn't like that. And that is the problem with these people, these PPP goons. They want the court to always rule in their favors. And when the court rules in their favor, they love the court. They love the judges. They love the magistrates. They love the acting chief justice. They love the acting chancellor and so forth. And when things don't go their way, they start to, the bumps start to raise. And so he's taking this court, this judgment against him. He's appealing the matter. And then when he loses again at the appellate court, guess what? He's not done. He's going all the way to the CCJ. And that is how these goons operate. They believe that the court should jump and always be on their side. And when the court isn't on their side, then, like I've said, their bumps raise. Good evening to all of you. My name is Mark Benchap. Welcome to Straight Up. I get to see all you beautiful people already in the comments section. I know some of you are offended when I put this photograph up with Bundari, but that's okay. We have to at times show photographs of Bundari. Let me congratulate Annette Ferguson, though. She got a judgment. I want her to get the money. In fact, I want her to get all of the money, right, Annette? All of the money. And when you do receive that big check, don't forget you have some friends here on 107.1 FM. All right. Thanks again for all of you guys who have shared the link and continue to share the link. Good evening to our operator, Lemon. Lemon is busy in the studio. But while Lemon is busy in the studio, I may ask you guys, what are some of the things bothering you, right? While I have no guests tonight, I didn't look for any guests. I just wanted to talk about some issues. But let's get some things out of the way. This young man, another young man electrocuted at work. At work. This Buxtonian electrocuted at work. I don't know what's happening in the country. Who is going to compensate this young man's family? Nobody, because there's really nobody there to stand up and protect their interest. I just don't know. It's just the other day, two other youngsters, two young men from Maikodi, Shaquille Butts and Gosham Narang. And now these guys were electrocuted. We don't know whether the employer paid for their funeral expenses or whatever, or compensated the family of these young men. Snuffed out just like that. Snuffed out. Electrocution. And now, days after that, we're hearing of another one. A young man, a carpenter from Buxton. How often are we going to keep saying condolences, 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 and nobody really cares? The employers do not care whether these young men are safe on the job. What's happening in Guyana? What exactly is happening? When these things are going to stop, and people are going to be very, very careful in terms of the these young men being electrocuted on the job is when they get a stinging hot lawsuit in them. Just like Jack got that stinging hot lawsuit. These folks need some lawsuits, man. They need to pay out of their pockets when these young men are being electrocuted. They go to work and this is what's happening. It's not the first, it's not the second, and it happens all the time. That is because it's like a wild west in Guyana. And those questionable characters as who form part of the private sector commission, you think they care? They don't care. They're not going to issue a statement against these things happening to these young men because they just don't care. And the regime obviously doesn't care. They're more about the money, right? They're more about signing hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts. And look, watch list. Look, watch list. Sitting there watching the money being signed for, what is it? $450.6 million for Wales Fire Station. And now you have a fire station in Georgetown that it's not effective, right? But they give their friend now to go and build a new fire station along Homestretch Avenue. I believe the lucky guys at Mohammed, right? The lucky guys at Mohammed gotten hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts, billions of dollars in contracts. And, yet they run around and throw out a little crumbs here and there. And then, it's a good thing. It's charity, right? Right. We'll deal with that on another occasion, mind you. But look at that. Look at watch list. Look at him sitting there. It's all about the money. They just don't care about the people at all. All right. Again, if you're now joining us, good evening to all of you, and welcome to Straight Up 107.1 FM. My name is Mark Benshaw. What else you guys want us to talk about this evening? You want us to talk about a handshake? No, we're not talking about a handshake between Rickford Burke and that guy who pomposet himself as the Prime Minister of Guyana, Mark Phillips. We're not talking about that handshake. That's just a little spur of the moment get together. That's what it was. Didn't really make any sense. A spur of the moment get together. But folks have to watch out with these handshakes, They got to watch out with the handshakes. That is why I'm saying kudos to Aubrey Norton. Here it is. We have an elections that's questionable, right? We have a political party in office under questionable circumstances. We have a guy that's parading himself around town as, quote unquote, the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. All of these things are questionable. Lots of people throughout the country are upset because of discrimination, either racial discrimination, political discrimination, you name it, all forms of discrimination, and no seriousness as it pertains to good governance in the country. But there is Aubrey Norton standing there, the guy facing with a big cell phone in his pocket. Looks as though it's what's his name? David Patterson. I don't know whether that's David or not, but from the size of his jacket, I don't know. I can't recognize these guys these days. But Aubrey Norton standing there, hands in his pocket, Irfan pops out of nowhere, stretches his hand out, wanting to shake Aubrey. Aubrey didn't want to shake his hand. Maybe, you can't fault Aubrey because a lot of things that are wrong in the country. And Aubrey said, look, I'm just tired of this. I'm tired of it. Some folks might be arguing, the decent thing, because, a lot of you guys want to be decent, right? And you always know what is proper and what is, what should have been done in terms of professionalism and so forth and so on. But whoever said that because somebody doesn't shake someone's hand mean that it is unprofessional? And I've watched Aubrey Norton at his press conference yesterday in his explanation. And I'll tell you what, I agree with Aubrey. Not only 90%, I agree with Aubrey 100%. Now, you have a regime pretending as though there's one Guyana, headed by this guy, right? Whether he's a puppet or not, he's headed by this guy. They have maybe over half of the population. The folks do not recognize him as president, as a legitimate president of the country. They do not. Aubrey Norton represents the opposition. He represents those people who do not recognize this guy as the legitimate president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Putting that aside, mind you, putting that aside, there's an elections petition. And the only thing that can be able to determine that, outside of what we already know, the rigging of the votes and the stuffing of ballot boxes and so forth, we want it to be official through the courts, but the PPP is running from that. Now, let's get back to this supposed handshake, right? Aubrey did the right thing. However, what I'm a little disappointed with is Aubrey said that he was bullied, that Irfan Ali bullied him into a handshake. Now, come on, Mr. Norton, come on. You allowed yourself to be bullied by Irfan Ali for a handshake? If you don't want to shake his hand, don't shake his hand. He cannot choke you. He cannot grab you. He cannot slam you down on the ground. Just have him stand right there. It's okay. It is not the end of the world. Now, you know, there are some people who are proper, right? And shake his hand. It's professional. Chetty did that to Burnham. And, these two guys are not Chetty and Burnham, right? They're not. They're just not Chetty and Burnham. And Chetty and Burnham were different times. 40, 50 years ago. Things have changed. Times have changed. People are no longer patriotic. You think Irfan Ali is patriotic? You think Jack Dave is patriotic? And so stretching his hand out to shake Aubrey Norton's hand for what? To say that things are all nice and hunky-dory in the country when it's not? You have people's lands being bulldozed, people's homes being bulldozed, and all manner of things. People are being discriminated against. People are starving in the country. There's no job. 50,000 jobs they promised, but yet there's nothing. Aubrey Norton is correct. I agree with Aubrey 100%, except this part that he says he was bullied. Come on, Aubrey. Come on. You were bullied? You allowed yourself to be bullied? Bullied? Oh, please. Come on now. Come on. Right? All right. Politics in Guyana, right? There, some of you may say, nothing's wrong with a handshake. Nothing is wrong with this. Nothing is wrong with that. Those are the ones who want to be very proper. And those of you who are Christians and even Hindus and Muslims, whatever other religious denomination you're part of, with all due respect, for those who are Christians, right? I believe it's Ecclesiastes 3, the third chapter, that speaks of there's a time and a place for everything under the sun. A time and a place for everything. There's no time and place for that handshake. No time and place for that handshake at all. You know what this reminds me of? The biblical story of when Satan and Jesus Christ were on the mountaintop. And Satan turned to Jesus Christ and says, look, if you would worship me right now, I will give you everything in the world. Just worship me. That's all you have to do. And now that might be a little bit too much here, that I'm looking at this photo and I am seeing lots and lots of things, man. I'm a CFAR kind of guy, I'm seeing things. Just like last evening, I spoke about the Anta-Banta politics. I spoke about the, Baizam Peter, Baizam Paul politics. That is what they're playing. Baizam Peter, Baizam Paul politics. And again, kudos to Aubrey for refusing to shake his hand, because now is not the time for this. I'm being honest about it. Now is not the time for this. It is just not the time for this. But without repeating myself, the only thing that I'm against is the fact that Aubrey Norton said he was bullied. Bullied? Come on, Aubrey. Come on. Don't be bullied. Don't allow yourself to be bullied by these guys. These guys are not bullies. They're not. They pretend as though they pretend to be what they're not. All right? What else is happening? Guyana gets low score for perception of electoral integrity after March 2020 polls. And we can't fault these people and their report. We certainly can't fault them. However, we all know why. The PPP now and their folks may want to throw all the blame over in the hands of the coalition to say that the coalition made this and the coalition made that happen. Don't be fooled. Again, do not be fooled. The reason we are where we are right now in terms of this report, Guyana, I'll repeat, Guyana gets low score for perception of electoral integrity after March 2020 polls. And we're just close to Venezuela and Haiti and some other countries. Close to Venezuela, Haiti, and some other countries. And with what Trump and Mike Pompeo and all of them have attempted to do in the last general elections in the United States of America, we have been saved by the bell. And thankfully, Trump wasn't able to get away with electoral fraud and all the allegations of electoral fraud in the United States of America. And mind you, let me just give you guys a reminder about that, the seriousness about electoral fraud. And I'll get back into the PPP and how they were able to snatch the elections. They stole the elections through corruption, through rigged elections, and all manner of things, stuffed ballot boxes. But I just want to remind you guys on the thinking of Mike Pompeo in the last elections in the United States of America. Get a better understanding.
Mr. Secretary.
Hi.
Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right, we're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly.
All right, I stopped it there. There will be a smooth transition for a second term of Donald Trump, a second term. And that is key, a smooth transition for a second term in office. Donald Trump, second term in office, a smooth transition. This was after the elections results were declared. And Biden, Kamala Harris were declared the winner or winners. The Democrats were declared the winners of the 2021, U.S. elections, or 2020, But again, and that is what the then Secretary of State Pompeo said, there will be a smooth transition of a second term, Trump second term in office. The other interesting thing in what he said was that when all of the votes are counted, that is key, that is important. That is exactly what was denied to the Guyanese people. All of the votes weren't counted. Mike Pompeo had a different plan for Guyana because he said, he threatened basically magistrates, judges, he threatened judges and everybody he threatened. In other words, stop the process, declare the PPP the winner as a result of all of the illegal votes counted. And the PPP is in office as a result of not legal votes that were counted, but illegal votes that were counted that Mike Pompeo denied the Guyanese people. But in the United States of America, he wanted his guy who lost the elections. He's talking about, He's talking about let all of the votes count. And even when all of the votes were counted, they didn't accept it either. Now let's go back to Mike Pompeo. Listen to him carefully.
Mr. Secretary,
Hi.
is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right, we're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. The world should have every confidence that the transition necessary to make sure that the State Department is functional today, successful today, and successful with the president who's in office on January 20th, a minute afternoon, will also be successful. I went through a transition on the front, and I've been on the other side of this. I'm very confident that we will do all the things that are necessary to make sure that the government, the United States government, will continue to perform its national security.
Of course, do all the things necessary for a second Trump term. They did every single thing from the January 6th, you name it. It didn't happen, right? But here it is. We're talking about Guyana and how it was different for people like Mike Pompeo in Guyana. It wasn't about all of the legal votes. It wasn't about the Constitution. It wasn't about the legal process, but it was about the snatch control, snatch democracy away from the people and to put in place someone that they can control, put puppets in place that they can control, because it was all about the wealth. It was all about the oil wealth. That is what it was about. So this here that we're seeing, Guyana gets low score for perception of electoral integrity after March 2020 polls. Now, these are the guys in the PPP who love to talk about Burnham rigged elections and all manner of things they want to talk about Burnham and rigged elections, right? But when put aside Burnham and allegations of rigged elections, put that aside. Now let's also remind them that the rigging of elections and the stealing of seats was way before allegations leveled against Burnham. Allegations were leveled against Chetty Jagan. Allegations were leveled against rigged elections and the snatching of seats illegally. Allegations were leveled against the PPP and Chetty Jagan. So let's just put that clear, right? Out there for those guys who don't want to accept the truth. And then there were allegations of the 1997 election, serious allegations of electoral malpractices, right? It happened, and it was proven in court. In 2001, there was a ruling just before the March 2001 elections that the judge then, Claudette Singh, how ironic, vitiated the elections. And so new elections had to be called. At that time, they called the elections for March. And, with what we have seen and the evidence coming out of GCOM, the Guyana Elections Commission, I can almost put my head on the block that the 2001 elections, where we saw guys like Stanley Ming and others through the reform component of the PNC, I have my strong view that the PNC reform won the 2001 elections, because at that time, here why, people weren't taking a close look at the jiggery pokery there at the Guyana Elections Commission. People were not looking at that. They were not looking at how guys like Dudnath Singh and others were operating there. They were not looking, this guy, General Joe Singh, was there for just one elections and he quit. He walked away. When a lot of people had confidence in Joe Singh, that Joe was going to be the man to turn things around at GCOM, but Joe ran. General Joe Singh ran away from that position. He couldn't handle it. I don't know why. Maybe somebody should ask him why he ran away. And however, I mentioned Joe Singh because there was Dudnath Singh, and then there were a couple others, right? All pro PPP. But Joe Singh was the one that many folks thought was going to be the balanced one. But he ran away. For a man who served all those years in the military, and running away from a situation at GCOM. I don't know why he ran away. But his name popped up on a list that Jack Day wanted back, and the PPP wanted him back. His name was on a list to be the chairman of GCOM again. And because he didn't get an opportunity, David Granger said, nah, scratch it out. It's okay. And I agree with then President David Granger. Scratch it out. Throw it away. You know, he was there before. Now, again, he wants to head back there. I don't know. I just don't know at all. But let's move on about rigged elections, right? The 1997 elections, questionable. We saw what came out. The judge vitiated it. Those things never happened under the PNC, mind you. It was never proven that elections were rigged. There were allegations of rigged elections, and like any other part of the world, including Guyana, there's always allegations of rigged elections. But what I know for a fact, I can speak about the PPP, that those allegations were proven in court, and they proved that the PPP rigged elections. Let us move away from the 1997 elections, and let me remind you guys of the 2006. And now there's a reason why I'm doing this, right? Because you know the PPP is going to want to come out and put the blame on the PNC and the coalition for rigged elections. That is what they're going to say. That is the propaganda they have been spreading from day one, right? Day one, they've been spreading this. But before I get to the 2020 elections, again, let me remind you guys that in 2006, the PPP stole a seat. Not the PNC, not the coalition, not the WPA, not the AFC, not APNU. But guess who stole a seat from the people in Region 10? Guess who? I'm going to look at some of your comments, right? Guess who stole a seat? Oh, yeah. Jack Day and the PPP. They stole a seat from the people of Region 10. And guess what? They gave that seat to Sam Hines. The people never elected Sam Hines. They never wanted Sam Hines to be their member of parliament from Region 10. But the PPP stole that seat. I want the PPP trench crappos who are watching. I want them, and I say specifically trench crappos, not to disrespect the other decent listeners who have that right to support any other political party, be it the PPP, whatever it is. I'm not talking to those decent-minded individuals who may very well change their pattern of voting next elections and dump the PPP, right? And so I want those trench crappos to understand, especially when they talk about rigged elections. And, you know, they love to say that it's PNC and Bornham and all and APNU and AFC, them rig elections. Then I want to show the SOPs. We will get to that shortly, right? But let's stick to the 2006 elections that the PPP stole a seat from the AFC. And here is how this cooking up happened. The cooking up happened at GCOM because they got to get their people inside of GCOM to do the cooking. If they don't have people who they are confident of to do the cooking for them, well, their goose gonna get cooked. And that's what happened in 2006 when they got caught. The seat was stolen, they got caught, and they were so brazen, presumptuous to say that they were aware that the seat was, GCOM was aware that the seat did not belong to Sam Hines. Only in Guyana. I'm not making these things up, my friends. I'm not. Only in Guyana these things happen, right? So Sam Hines and the PPP knew that they rigged, mind you, rigged. So don't think that the PPP guys like Jack Day and Irfan and Sam Hines and all of them are any religious type of individuals. They're not, far from it. And so I use the word again for that one seat in 2016. The key word is rigged. They rigged the elections out there for the seats, the allocation of seats for Region 10. And for 5 years, Samuel Archibald Hines sat in that seat that they rigged. He sat on the fraudulent on the fraudulent means for 5 years. And you guys, you PPP guys, want to talk about rigged elections? You want to talk about electoral fraud? No, I am not going to sit and allow you guys to get away with that at all. And now I'm not painting an impression that the PNC and APNU and AFC, that those guys are all angels. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if you show me the evidence that they have rigged elections, I have said this on so many occasions right here, that I'll put my hands up and say, to hell with those guys in the coalition, but minus any sort of concrete evidence, I'm not going to throw them under the bus as it pertains to electoral allegations of electoral fraud. Show me that evidence. Don't tell me SOPs. Don't put your goons, as some of the folks may address them, who are parading as journalists for the PPP, put their goons at press conferences. So when Aubrey Norton is around and he's holding his press conference, then there's a dunce tug, being described as a PPP journalist saying, where are your SOPs? Aubrey, you walk with your SOPs today? Mr. Norton, you walk with your SOPs? Like a madman. SOPs. The PPP doesn't want the SOPs to be opened. My friends, it's staged. It's a facade. What is it? It is like a circus. So don't buy into that at all. Now I need to continue, right? I spoke about the 2006 elections and the fact that that seat was rigged, stolen from Region 10. And when they found out that the then CEO, which is the Chief Elections Officer of GCOM, found out that he got caught, you know what he said? Documents were already signed, it was gazetted. The only option that AFC had was to take them to court. Now, GCOM is supposed to protect the nation from electoral fraud, protect the nation from any form of electoral skullduggery. Now, GCOM under Gokul Budu and Steve Surjbali was the chairman then. Gokul Budu was the chief elections officer. They knew of that electoral fraud. They knew of that rigging of that seat in Region 10. But guess what? They allowed it to go ahead and say that at this point in time, it can only be challenged through an elections petition. Sam Hines sat in that seat for 5 years. Yet these are the people who want to lecture us about democracy. Yet these are the people who want to lecture us about good governance. They want to talk down to us about rigged elections. Are you kidding me? Now they deserve this. If they're watching, and they be watching, they deserve this before we move on. Because I'll repeat, the 2006 elections, questionable, a seat was stolen, rigged. Let this sink into the minds and the heads and the hearts of those PPP diehard, and especially some of those trench crappos. The PPP rigged the 2006 elections by stealing that one seat from Region 10. God in heaven knows. Now I say rigged the entire elections, because if you get caught in one area where you got caught, you didn't know that you were going to get caught, right? You know what's going through my mind now? If they were so brave to steal that seat in Region 10, God in heaven knows where else they stole a seat or the seats from in the 2006 elections. So when it comes to rigged elections and all manner of things, the trophy goes to the PPP. And they deserve this tonight. Again, you know, with this rigging of elections, we got to keep repeating these things and putting it out there so that because it looks as though the coalition and these guys aren't too concerned about this perception out there that they rigged elections. They're not too concerned about that, but I am concerned, right? Because thus far, there is not sufficient evidence for me to be convinced that the coalition did the bulk of rigging. Now, I don't know what may have happened behind the scene, but I'm not seeing that evidence. Don't tell me about SOPs. Now, this is Lincoln Lewis's page, the veteran trade unionist, Lincoln. He said on his page a while back, what electoral democracy? 47. And this is where I want our listeners to understand again while we break it down. 47 boxes without statutory documents. 47 plus electoral malpractices. Only the lawless applauds lawlessness. Again, the evidence is there pointing in the direction of the PPP, that the PPP rigged the March 2020 general and regional elections. And the only thing that the PPP and their support base can cling on to is SOPs. Show me your SOPs. There got to be a calypso or a soca with that. Maybe for this coming up, this matrimony, somebody can come up with something, some SOP song. SOP, show me your SOP, whatever, right? But look at this. This was a GCOM headquarters on elections day. And this is how this thing was staged. In case you're wondering whether this is the National Cultural Center, which is another issue, because the little boy that runs the Ministry of Sports placed the rental of the National Cultural Center from 90,000 to 500,000, but he has since reversed that. Good move, reverse it, because who's going to rent the Cultural Center for $500,000? When allegations are being leveled against that little boy in the ministry that he's giving it away free to his friends and cronies. But I'm glad that that price has since been reversed. Now back to this point here. This is not the National Cultural Center. This is GCOM's headquarters on the day of elections. And this thing was staged, I tell you. If Shakespeare was around today, Shakespeare would have agreed 100% that this was staged to make Mingo the boogeyman. Poor Mingo. They turned Mingo into the boogeyman. And so all the blame now they put on Mingo. That is why they're singing this tune, this SOP, SOP. And they blame all these people. Roxanne Myers, Mr. Mingo, and the other gentleman there, Keith Lowenfield. Sorry about that. Keith Lowenfield. Blame them because they had to blame somebody in order for this thing to look good. So the first boogeyman to go down is Mingo, and they start to call him all manner, all different names, you name it. But the poor man, look, I'm telling you guys how this thing played out from how I have assessed the entire situation, is that this guy got caught with rigged, fraudulent SOPs. But by the time he saw what happened, and maybe an attempt was made, again, maybe an attempt was made to correct, and in the process, they stopped him and they rushed in because this is how it was planned, to run in and stop that process, stop it. The PPP was caught, and they wanted that process right there, right here. Where is it? Come on, Lemon. Where is it? Right there. It was staged to make Mingo look like the real boogeyman, when in fact it wasn't Mingo who was the boogeyman. It was the PPP, because they planned how they are going to rig the elections. They planned how they are going to stuff ballot boxes and all manner of things, not only on the lower east coast of Demerara. And you remember that day, right? When Basil Williams and Amna Ali, they walked up and they were asking, Anil, what going on here, bro? What going on here? They saw it right there. The evidence was right in front of them. But yet they were asking Anil, what going on? What going on? Ballot boxes were stuffed. All manner of things happened. Now let's go back to this chart. Let's go back. The 47 ballot boxes without documents. That's on the lower East Coast. That amounts to, let us see, over 12 to 14,000 votes. 12 to 14,000 votes is equivalent to 2 seats. 2 seats. And that was crucial. That was critical. So don't let these PPP guys come to you and talk about rigged elections and all these manner of things. Throw these things, evidence. This is not propaganda, mind you. It is evidence. 61 dead voters. Well, they got up, walked out of Le Repentir Cemetery, walk out of the Montrose cremation site and all over, and on elections day, they walk in. I'm going to vote. Yeah, go vote. PPP, PPP. Another dead man, sir, another dead man. Johnny, where you going? Johnny said, me go vote PPP, PPP. Me go vote PPP. So dead, all the dead resurrected. Maybe during that process, one or two of them say, coalition, by coalition. But the bulk of the 61 dead people who got up and voted, the bulk of them, I put my head on the block, voted for the PPP. Voted for the PPP. You going to vote for me? Are you going to vote for PPP? Okay. I vote for PPP. So take my finger. Them. You think them see my finger, boy? You think they must see me? You know? It's not funny, but that's 61 dead persons voted. 4,864 absent voters. They may know where they come from. And the bulk of these things are PPP. And these PPP people want to talk about rigged elections? How often should we be breaking this thing down for them, man? I don't care how often it takes. I will be breaking it down for them. We will take a quick break, a commercial break for all of the trench crappos, because I am done breaking it down. Good. Now that I got their attention again, because that is just how they behave. They think people are fools. 4,864 absent voters. It simply means that folks sat in their basements, haven't been in Guyana for maybe 20, 30, 40 years, but they vote. All of them voted. Absent voters. And look at this here, 150, not one, not 15, 150 stuffed ballot boxes. 47 ballot boxes without statutory documents. 1,278 missing oaths of identity. We heard about that individual who was responsible for all those things out in region 2, it was, right? It took him over a month and a half before he finally declared, that was the returning officer, finally declared. And the documents that he brought into GCOM Some were damaged. A lot of them were questionable. And that's a PPP guy. PPP documents, right? But all they held on to is the coalition and SOPs. SOPs. Now, we're done with the 2006 elections, right? That was just a little preview of the 2020 elections to remind you of the rigging, the massive rigging. I want to walk you through the 2011 elections when Donald Ramotar became the minority president, and he didn't last long. He paroled Parliament because he wanted snap elections. He couldn't handle it. The AFC, with their couple of seats, were poking him, and the PNCR, with their seats, were poking him too. So he couldn't manage the country. Thank God, because he couldn't manage the country. So he called snap elections, and that is why we've had the 2015 elections. He called snap elections. He couldn't handle it, right? He couldn't handle it. But guess what happened? Guess what happened? He just couldn't handle it. But for the 2011 elections, guess what? GCOM folks attempted to give him an extra seat. Again, I'll say this. GCOM folks, Steve Surge-Valley was the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission. Now, I'm not saying that he did anything wrong, but he was the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, right? Mind you, when all these things happened, it happened in 2006. It happened in 2011 again, one seat. In 2006, they stole a seat from Region 10. In 2011, they attempted to give Donald Ramotar and the PPP an extra seat. Now, I don't know if the chairman then, Steve Surge-Valley, knew about that. I don't know. Well, he was the chairman. So we can assume that maybe, I don't know. But Gokul Budu was the guy in charge of all these things. And it is quite possible, mind you, it is quite possible that this whole thing was cooked up. Quite possible. So they didn't get through in stealing, and I use the term stealing, that extra seat and gave it to Donald Ramotar so that he cannot be a minority president, he'll be a majority president. So he has the control to do all manner of things, right? Okay, you get the drift. He was stopped in his track because the information was given to then commissioner of GCOM commissioner, Mr. Alexander, but the information was given to Vincent Alexander. I think by now the PPP probably found out who actually leaked that information to Vincent, and Vincent came out and stopped them. Thank you. 2011 elections, rigged again. So if they attempted with that one seat and got caught with it, it simply means that somebody didn't do their math correctly, and it simply means that there's a high possibility that other seats were rigged. But it just so happened they got caught again with that one seat. In 2015, they try a thing, it didn't work. And so the coalition got into office with one seat. Again, we were looking at this one seat thing, 2006, we heard about the one seat that they stole. 2011, we heard about the one seat again. In 2015, we heard about the one seat again. But guess what? Guess what the PPP did? The PPP didn't give up, They went back to the drawing board. They no longer want a one seat controversy. They want either 2 or 3 seats. And that is how they started to cook this thing up. They started to do their homework as to how they will cook the 2020 elections up. And boy, oh boy, they did cook the 2020 elections. Because now they have a 2-seat majority. Not a 1 seat, a 2-seat majority. Including, I believe, this so-called joint party in parliament. That's this guy, whatever his name is, can't even remember his name. He's insignificant, a lot of political hustling. Schumann, sorry, lots of political hustling. When was the last time you heard about that guy, Schumann? Political hustlers. They're not concerned about you. They're not concerned about indigenous brothers and sisters. They claim and they love to boast and brag. And when he wants people to feel nice and sorry for him, he puts on his indigenous attire, something that he himself probably doesn't even respect. So he puts it on to get the attention. I haven't seen him recently putting it on. It simply means he has been caught for who he is, a political hustler. Now back to the elections and rigged elections, right? And the PPP and how they've rigged the elections. So the one seat, they've studied it carefully to ensure that the 2020 elections, they will have no more controversy about a one seat majority. Because we saw in 2020, after the 2015 elections, what happened with that one seat. When it's easy to go out and buy somebody. It's easy to buy somebody. And maybe that was maybe that exactly happened. That is exactly what happened. Maybe. And then we heard things about Kaz Rip this and who was selling Kaz Rip and all manner of things. I wonder if the individual who was so filthy rich selling Kaz Rip and negotiating with people and all these things for Kaz Rip. I wonder if he's flooding India with Kaz Rip because he sits there as Guyana's High Commissioner to India, right? Yeah, you guys know the Kaz Rip man. And so the PPP ensured that the 2020 elections, they got a majority of about 2 seats because they did their homework. They did their homework on how to rig and to be better at rigging. Hence, the 2020 elections were rigged by the PPP. And so, sorry about that. So the electoral fraud that we're hearing about, let the PPP answer up to those electoral fraud. That is why this report is out. And all blame should be at the doorstep of the PPP for rigging the elections. I understand the frustration of Aubrey Norton and maybe majority of Guyanese. Why shake a hand of an individual who sits there as president under questionable circumstances? And these folks are preventing the court from doing its job. Why is it that something as important as elections petitions are taking so long to be heard if, in fact, if it is true that the PPP has nothing to hide? If they have nothing to hide and they are not afraid of exposing their SOPs, then the million-dollar question, why? And I want those PPP supporters who are listening tonight to hear this. Again, I'll repeat myself. If, as they claim, the PPP claim that the coalition SOPs are bad, and if it is true, as they claim, that the coalition did the rigging, they claim that. They don't have any evidence to support their point other than to say SOPs, the PNC or the coalition SOPs. Now, guess who has all of the SOPs in their possession? Guess who is in control of all of the SOPs, including the PNC or the coalition's SOPs? The court, the PPP, GCOM. So there's no need now to pretend that Aubrey Norton has to take his SOPs. Forget about what Aubrey says. Oh, he's going to show his SOPs. So, forget about Aubrey and what he said about that. Sometimes, not all the time Aubrey gets it right. You know what I mean? Aubrey doesn't have to prove no SOPs to no one. Not the trench crappos, not the PPP Don Stuggs, described as journalists, who goes at press conferences to annoy, to brook up press conferences, and to annoy poor Aubrey, to confuse Aubrey. Those advisors around Aubrey, They got to sit down and they got to talk to him about that. Don't be confused. They want to see he running the wrong vehicle and all manner of things, and they laugh because governance with these pacos in office, in the installed regime, is a comical, it's a circus for them. And so they laugh at all these different things in order to distract all of you from important issues in the country, to distract you. Poor Aubrey got distracted for a few minutes. But if they are serious about the SOPs, then bring it on in court. Let the elections petition be heard right now, before any confirmation of any Chief Justice or any Chancellor. Let it be done right now. That is far more important than anything else, in my opinion. But again, the PPP doesn't want that to happen because they're afraid that once it happens, it will be officially and legally revealed to the world that the PPP are the ones who rigged the March 2020 general and regional elections. They are afraid. So don't come and tell me about SOPs, coalition SOPs. The PPP has it in their hands. The court has it in their hands. Let's get on with the show. Open those SOPs, and y'all will see exactly what I'm talking about. At the recount process, it was revealed that it was the PPP. After the final tabulation of legal votes, it showed that the PPP lost the general and regional elections, according to what Mike Pompeo said. Now let's go back to what Mike says. Mike said in the US elections, after all of the votes, the legal votes are counted. And now if Mike Pompeo wants that for the US elections, all of the legal votes counted, then why was it so different in Guyana? That all of the votes were counted in Guyana, including a bulk of illegal votes, fraudulent votes. And then that must be accepted as free and fair elections. But because the then chief elections officer, Keith Lowenfield, did what he had to do by law, which was to separate the illegal votes, the fraudulent votes, from the real votes. And after the illegal votes were wiped out, the legal votes, the majority of them proved that the coalition won the 2020 elections. But no, the goalposts changed. Maya Motley and all of them were on the stage. They were parading. They were running around and all manner of things because the CARICOM team that went into GCOM only saw less than 10% or 5% of the counting of the ballot. And they went back and out of 5% that they saw, 5%. That is what Maya Motley and all of them running around with. 5%, including that quack out in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We're not hearing much from him these days. It looks as though the PPP left him out of some sweet deal. Ralph Gonzalez get left out. We're not hearing or seeing much of him at all, like he vexed with them. But then again, Ralph got his own problems, lots of problems in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Serious allegations of electoral fraud as well in St. Vincent. Serious allegations of corruption, massive corruption and nepotism. You see his son in St. Vincent getting rich. His son is the finance minister, I believe, right? Them guys getting rich and rich and rich and rich. And so poor Maya Motley got caught up with the tricks of the PPP. Poor Maya. Poor Maya. We're looking at the time. I didn't even get a chance to check out your comments and so forth, but we are looking at the time. But before I go, there's one thing else I want to say. Something else I want to say. And I'm looking for it. In fact, I'm looking for Lemon too. There we go. This is just one of the things. Woman 23 arrested for attempting to ship cocaine hidden inside a religious item. Allegations leveled against this young lady, Lisa Ramnarine. Allegations, mind you, allegations. Religious stuff. Cocaine going in every single thing. Everything cocaine going. Maybe cocaine will probably go in ballot boxes, all manner. Well, the PPP's back, so these things will happen every day, every week. Allegations, mind you, against this young woman, Lisa Ramnarine. Religious stuff. Cocaine. So this is what this what is it? It's something for puja, you know. It's a Havan Kund, right? A Havan Kund. And for some of you who don't know what that is, you know, it's a Havan Kund. This is it. This is it. So she decided not to do puja, but allegations, mind you, allegations, I don't know, it's not been proven, but allegations that she, instead of doing puja, she decided, allegations leveled against her, that she put the cocaine in this here. Cocaine and cocaine and cocaine and cocaine. Oh gosh, cocaine and cocaine. All manner of things cocaine going in these days. All manner of things. The taxi driver who struck down that guy, Williams, has confessed, according to the police, that he buried the man's body. And any sensible police investigator, detective, would have been able to pick that up. I'm not a police, I'm not a detective, but I was able to pick that up. That after he struck this guy down, on his way to the hospital, he wanted to take this guy for help. And that is what I have used to fix this puzzle. I'm not saying I'm the one who, you know, caused them to find the body. I'm just saying the puzzle was very easy, but the police couldn't pick that up. They let him go on $300,000 bail. The puzzle was right there. It was easy, simple, common sense. And maybe common sense, a little over common sense, right? Detective work. Now, if this guy struck this man down and decided to take him to the hospital, it means that his intentions were good. But somewhere along the line, he probably, and as I've read, and quite correctly how I fixed this puzzle, mind you, that he realized that this guy probably died. Probably. He's no expert. We're no expert to look at somebody. That is why they have these chaps. What is it? They turn up. You guys know the term, right? They have to turn up. I know who it is, but you know, old age. They have to turn up, right? So this driver now realized that this guy's body is motionless. And so he panicked. And now I'm not trying to be insensitive towards the family of the deceased. I'm just trying to play detective here, how I would have handled this case, right? He panicked. And instead of taking this gentleman that was struck down to the hospital, keep going, he decided to stop and dash the man. That is where the problem now comes in. That is where the problem comes in. He decided to take the man's body and dump it into a trench. How disrespectful that is. Now, I don't know what the charges are. I don't know what the charges are. It could be voluntary manslaughter. It could be a whole host of things, because he could say the body was motionless. He's no expert to determine that. And so there's a high possibility that he can be charged with murder. There's a high possibility of that. And that is where the matter becomes so serious that he decided to go home, bathe, and sleep. And then the police didn't do their work in the beginning. They released him on $300,000 bail. But I'm glad good sense prevailed, I'm glad that he has confessed, if it is accurate according to the police, because the police and confession statements and these things, right? But we'll see where it goes. Again, condolences to the family members of Mr. Williams. I'm glad that they've recovered the body and that the family will get some sort of rest, some sort of peace of mind. And you never can get peace of mind under the circumstances, right? Condolences again to the entire family of the deceased. All right, I've got to go. I'll be back tomorrow night, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. Remember, keep hope alive. God bless you, and God bless that beautiful country. So long.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number two, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob. But you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them. We vote them. We blindly say we are not blind. Who is deceiving who? The ridiculous part of the whole issue is that we will fight to defend and protect our belongings from the ordinary thief. Is it not? But we fight each other to defend and protect the political thief. Is that not what we do? Thugs will be fighting themselves to protect those that are stealing our career, stealing our joy, stealing our health, stealing our success. What a shame. What a travesty. It calls for us to think and think deep. The stage we are in as a country is not a stage where you become an onlooker. You have become an onlooker for too long. You must get ready to put your hands to the plow and be part of the process. It's not just about PVC, carry PVC. You must be in the kitchen where it is being determined. You must be there where the decisions are being made. We are there in our numbers, they cannot outnumber us. But you leave it aloof. Oh, it's too dirty. It's a dirty game. And then the dirty guy is getting to the game of play. And you are there not showing up. And when they begin to make the decisions, you will know whether it's a dirty game or not. The result is always dirty on yours. Dirty on your health. Dirty on your business. Dirty on your success and your career. I hope that is stirring up something in you.